I'm sorry.
So am I.
Inquisitor, I was not expecting a visit. You had little interest in speaking to me privately before. But as dear Josephine says, it's never too late to make a friend.
I hope I'm not disrupting anything.
The commander was just delivering the names of those we lost at Haven. You must blame me for this.
We all saw who attacked us. We know exactly who to blame.
I keep wondering if I could have done something different. When the first of my lookouts went missing, I pulled the rest back, awaiting more information. If they'd stayed in the field, they could have bought us more time. I was afraid to lose my agents. And instead, we lost Haven.
You look out for your people. That's a good thing.
Is it? My people know their duty. They know the risks. They understand that the Inquisition may call upon them to give their lives.
True. There are soldiers. They'll do what we need them to.
If Corypheus is cold, I must be colder. War demands sacrifices of us all. Inquisitor, I have been thinking. You remember everything now, yes? The explosion at Haven, the Fade, escaping the breach. In your report, you said Justinia was with you. But only you emerged in the end. Why? Why were you the only survivor?
Demons tore her from me. I couldn't stop them.
So you had no time to think, only to act. Her message to me. I failed you too. I'm not sure I understand what that means. Did you say anything else? Anything at all? Please, if you remember.
Wait, you don't know what she meant either?
There are no answers in the Fate. Only illusions. A warped mirror. Justinia has never failed me. I was her left hand. Now she's dead. I failed her. So it's true. Some look to Cassandra or even me as Justinia's successor. I never thought the idea would gain momentum. Of course, with the other candidates out of the picture...
Is becoming divine something you really want?
When Justinia was alive, I would have laughed at anyone who even suggested that I could be her successor. Things have changed. Still, I don't know. Restoring the Chantry will be like trying to steer a sinking vessel through a storm.
Whoever becomes divine will have my support if she requires it.
And I'm sure whoever becomes divine will absolutely require the Inquisition's backing. The Chantry is faltering, but it still has influence over the people. Who tells the people what's right? Who do they look to in times of peril? A divine with enough support can change the Chantry. And with it, Thedas. But this is a discussion for later. If Corypheus wins, finding a new divine will be the least of our problems. A message from Divine Justinia.
That's a shock. You're all right reading it?
Thank you for the concern, Inquisitor. But I am. This message was written months, perhaps even years ago, to be delivered to me if she died. I've heard of such contingency plans. A sudden death often leaves loose ends. I'm to go to Valence, a small village on the waking sea. There is something hidden there.
Do you know what you're looking for?
The Divine was a powerful woman who used her position to obtain all sorts of things. Whatever she hid in Valence would very likely benefit the Inquisition and must be kept from falling into the wrong hands. If I'm lucky, she will have instructions for me.
Why hide things in Valence? What's so special about it?
Justinia was revered mother at the chantry there for many years before she became the Divine. It is a place that holds great meaning for her.
I'll help in whatever way I can.
Wonderful. I was hoping you would agree to come with me to Valence. One more thing. If what is hidden in Valence is as valuable as I think, we're not going to be the only ones looking for it. I shall meet you at the chantry in Valence. Try not to delay. Reports of fade rifts and demons keep coming. The people are terrified, and it's only getting worse. The only thing that will calm their fears now is the hope that someone out there can save them. You have to be that someone. No one else has any power over the rifts. Seal them. Your legend will spread, and Thedas will learn to trust the Inquisition.
In Redcliffe, you sacrificed yourself so that I could return here.
Of course I did. One small life in exchange for a second chance at history. I always loved a bargain.
It was still a sacrifice, and still noble.
And I would do it again.
They called you the left hand of the Divine.
That they did. What of it?
What is the point of an Inquisition?
Justinia would have started the Inquisition if the Divine Conclave failed to restore peace. She hoped that with enough support, we could challenge the very tenets of the Chantry. She wanted the Chantry to treat the mages fairly. But sometimes I wonder, why stop at mages? The Chantry has committed many injustices. If we're going to change it, why not change the whole thing? It's just a thought. None of this will be possible if we fail.
I'm sorry she didn't live to see the Inquisition.
So am I.
I could use the left hand of the Divine at my side out there.
Every agent out in the world is my eyes, my ears, my blade. Wherever my people are, I am also. Coming with you, leaving my post, would blind and bound me. Do you see?
What exactly does the left hand of the Divine do?
A Divine always has enemies, and Justinia had more than most. I protected her. I watched, had an ear to every door. I identified threats, and I dealt with them.
Why did Justinia have so many enemies?
There were many who felt she was unfit to be divine. She had a past, a worldly life. Unlike many, she wasn't given to the Chantry as a child. She chose it, and somehow that made her unworthy. And because they thought she was unworthy, they wished her harm.
It sounds like you did some unscrupulous things as the left hand.
Perhaps, but wouldn't you do anything to protect what you love?
I'd like to hear about Justinia. What was she like?
A friend. A mentor. Like me, she had secrets, made mistakes. It made her human. I think her followers responded to that.
Was there something more than friendship between you?
You're asking if we were lovers? Typical. I was devoted to her, therefore it must be romantic. Love is common. Love is simple. My bond with Justinia was something greater. She was a sister, a mother, a teacher. So to answer your question, yes, it was more than friendship.
How did you and Justinia meet?
I met her a long time ago, before she became divine. Before she was Justinia. When I met her, she was Mother Dorothea. I was at my lowest. Broken, lost. And she saved me. No, wait. She hates it when I say that. I saved myself. She just showed me it was possible.
We'll talk more later.
Inquisitor?
As you were.
Yes, Inquisitor.
You have remarkably little here on early to winter history. All these gifts to the Inquisition, and the best they can do is the Malefica Imperio. Trite propaganda. But if you want 20 volumes on whether Divine Galatea took a shit on Sunday, this is evidently the place to find it.
If I knew what you were looking for, I could help you.
Ha! You? I rather doubt that. I apologize. That was unworthy. Did I see something by Genitivi here? I could have sworn.
What is this about, Dorian?
When everyone returned, they told us about your tumble into the abyssal rift. You went into the Fade. Physically went in. Are you... all right?
Hawk is gone.
The Fade is an ordeal under normal circumstances. To be the only real thing there, beyond description. That you made it out at all is a miracle. You do realize this feat hasn't been performed in over 1,000 years. Corypheus and his contemporaries entered the Fade and began the Blights. In comparison.
So I should be happy I accomplished something so grand?
Concerned, more like. If you can walk in the Fade, others will try to follow. Who knows what secrets Corypheus has revealed? Not all of them will be as lucky as you. What they could unleash. My advice? Keep this quiet. Let them speculate. Too many will see this as a challenge.
You don't number among them.
It's tempting, but I am no fool. There are enough idiots in the world who think if they just use enough blood magic, their problems will vanish. It's exactly the sort of thing I want to stop back home. This I don't need. What I do need is a copy of the Liberalum. I'll wager I can find Corypheus's real name. If I can prove he was a grasping ankle-biter with no family to speak of, the luster would come right off. Wish me luck.
Anything interesting?
A letter regarding Felix, Alexius's son. He went to the magisterium, stood on the Senate floor and told them of you. A glowing testimonial, I'm informed. No news on the reaction, but everyone back home is talking. Felix always was as good as his word.
Was?
He's dead. The Blight caught up with him.
Are you all right?
He was ill, and thus on borrowed time anyhow.
It doesn't mean you can't regret his death.
I know. Felix used to sneak me treats from the kitchens when I was working late in his father's study. Don't get into trouble on my behalf, I tell him. I like trouble, he'd say. Tevinter could use more mages like him. Those who put the good of others above themselves.
Were the two of you...
Felix and I? What an odd question. No, I had no intention of abusing Alexius's hospitality by seducing his son. Not that I've been proper my whole life by any means. It wasn't like that. Even in illness, Felix was the best of us. With him around, you knew things could be better.
You make it sound like he was a better person than you.
What a mad thing to say. Few people are better than I. Very well, a better person, clearly, not nearly as handsome. Thankfully, Felix wasn't the only decent sort kicking around Thedas. Marvelous business, the Winter Palace. You saved an empress, and now she's eating out of your hand. Perfect mental image. All this dancing, politics, and murder makes me a bit homesick.
That's something you actually miss?
Who wouldn't? All the drama, the scandal, the petty maneuverings. Back home, we engage in social affairs with the grim intensity of war. When blood is spilled, the battle is won. Less fun when you're the target, but to watch. My, yes. I hope you tried the ham they were serving, by the way. Tasted of despair. It's fascinating.
It occurs to me that I barely know anything about you.
Beyond my being a mage from Tevinter, you mean?
Beyond that, yes.
And beyond my being so charming and well-dressed, which is obvious to anyone.
You certainly think highly of yourself.
It's true. I could be more modest, but I'd be lying. Now, what was I talking about? Ah, yes, me. I am the scion of House Parvis, a product of generations of careful breeding and the repository of its hopes and dreams. Naturally, I despised it all. The lies, the scheming, the illusions of supremacy. That's Tevinter in a nutshell, isn't it? Needless to say, my family was not happy with my choices.
Why would your family be upset with your choices?
Because I rejected their idyllic plan. If they had their way, by now I'd be married to some unlucky girl from a powerful family. We'd live in luxurious despair, despising each other as I waited to take my father's place in the magisterium. I declined the honor, and thus it's best I'm far from home. Less of an embarrassment that way, you see?
Why remain with the Inquisition? Why not go back to Tevinter?
I'm not exactly welcome back home. Not that it matters, I'm quite accustomed to being a pariah. It adds to my charm. I can do more for Tevinter here. If the Venatori succeed, it'll set my homeland back 1,000 years. I'm sure some magisters would disagree, but that's why we kill them.
What did you mean by generations of careful breeding?
The great families of Tevinter don't have children. They refine traits, weed out the undesirable, and promote the rest. My mother was chosen for my father because magic runs strongly in her blood. Never mind that they loathed each other. They wanted a son who could become Archon to make House Parvis the envy of the Imperium. They got me. A cautionary tale that you should be careful what you wish for.
I'm getting the impression you don't care much for your homeland.
On the contrary, I care for my homeland a great deal. There's so much potential. Sadly, we squander it. We refuse to acknowledge how far we've fallen because pretending is easier. We pretend the Qunari can be beaten. We pretend that we're superior to everyone, even our own people. Not everyone feels that way. I don't. Sadly, we're the minority.
It just seems so much of what you say about the Imperium is entirely negative.
It might sound that way. For all our faults, my people have many virtues. We are laden with history and culture. Tevinter is where Thedas truly began, remember? We treasure our past and preserve it. You can walk down a side street and find nothing built during the modern ages. And despite appearances, we care. Deeply. About everything. We have no reserve, not in war and not in love. If I truly believed my homeland was beyond all hope, I wouldn't miss it so much.
I think I've heard enough.
That's too bad. I never tire of talking about myself.
You said Alexius was a mentor of yours.
He was my patron, sponsoring me to the higher levels of the Circle of Magi. In return, my successes were his. I had a lot of successes, naturally. Alexius was most pleased. He and I used to talk over brandy about the corruption, how we could one day make real change in the Imperium. And then he gave up. He stopped trying.
Why did he give up?
On a journey to Hossberg, a Darkspawn raid killed his wife and sickened his son. I remember hearing the news. He hadn't been there, you see. Alexius was convinced he could have protected them. The guilt tore him up. I helped him with his research for a while, and then we drifted apart.
That must have been difficult.
Back then, I was furious. I told him to snap out of it, move on. I thought I had all the answers. Later, I regretted my hasty words. But we didn't speak again until he approached me for the Venatori. Too much pride, I suppose. Plus, I was busy drinking. One must have priorities.
You still went after him.
It's true. What was I thinking? It's so cold down here. At any rate, he's fallen so low, I doubt he'll ever get up. Sad, really.
I'd like to ask you about Tevinter.
Ah, yes. Everyone outside the Imperium always seems quite fascinated by it. Probably why they come up with so many ridiculous tales. Flying cows over Minrathous. That's madness. All right, that one's actually true, but the cows didn't have wings. I digress. Anything in particular you wanted to know?
It seems strange that an entire empire would be ruled by mages.
I find it strange that your mages don't rule anything at all. Actually, the fiction in the Imperium is that mages don't rule. The Magisterium rules. That magisters are all mages is considered a convenient technicality.
I thought the Archon ruled over the Imperium.
Well, yes. Technically, he can overrule laws passed by the Magisterium, but that never happens. Even so, he gets to appoint new magisters, which means all the families vie madly for his favor. Thus, the Archon gets invited to all the parties. The truest path to Tevinter influence, let me tell you.
What is the Magisterium, exactly?
The upper house of the Imperial Senate, and the only part worth having a seat on. Those seats are split among the circles of Magi, the Chantry, and the major families. All majors now. It's odd that outside the Imperium, you use Magister like it applies to every Tevinter mage.
If you're not a Magister, then what are you called? No special title?
I'm an Altus, which is almost as good as a Magister, depending on who you ask.
I've never heard of an Altus.
Upper class. Those families who trace descent from the Dreamers, the first prophets of the old gods. If you're a mage and you're not Altus, then you're later. Lower class. If you're not a mage at all, you're Superati. That's everyone else. We do love our fancy words.
If it's a fiction, that means mages do rule, then.
Yes and no. Let me put it this way. Mages do rule, but not all mages are equal. If you're not from the right family, chances are you don't rule anything. Maybe you're even a slave. The idea that anyone could be a mage, however, keeps the masses placated.
Can anyone be a mage?
Technically, the potential runs mostly in bloodlines, but it's been known to happen. More importantly, commoners believe it can. Tevinter legend is chock full of mage heroes from humble origins. So they hold out hope. Someday my son or my son's son will be a mage. Someday. Poor sods don't realize that means he'll be a quaestor at the arse end of the 100 Pillars, at best.
Being a quaestor isn't a good thing?
I imagine the average non-mage likes to think so. Counting numbers and shuffling papers all day is better than many occupations after all. If you're a second-class citizen among a pack of piranha, however, your outlook changes.
But let me ask you something else.
Of course.
There's an Imperial Chantry, isn't there? With its own divine?
You people aren't supposed to talk about the Black Divine, are you? If you mention him outside the Imperium, people make that face, like you're urinating in public. But yes, we do have the Chantry, or a version of it. Night and day comparing it to yours.
Is the Imperial Chantry so different from ours?
Not in theory. The main difference is in the whole magic is meant to serve man, not rule over him business. Back home, ruling the unwashed masses is serving them, for the good of the Imperium. Perhaps it started with good intentions, but these days it's academic. The circles are in command.
There are circles of magi in the Imperium?
We don't have dismal little mage prisons, if that's what you mean. They're academies, prestigious ones. We have Templars as well, but they don't cancel spells or whatever your Templars do. They're soldiers. They watch for abuse of magic, yes, but only those who are weak or who fall out of favor get dealt with. Mostly they enforce their magisterium's edicts. The Chantry smiles and nods from the sidelines.
Do you really call him the Black Divine?
We don't call him that, oh no. In the Imperium, he's the true divine. The woman sitting on the Sunburst throne is some backwater pretender. It all stems from a disagreement over Andraste. Marvelous, isn't it?
Why would they disagree over Andraste?
It's not my field of expertise, but the Imperium believes Andraste was a mortal woman, a mage. Down south, they say, no, she's the bride of the Maker, ascended to his side, divine provenance, a blah blah blah. We feel better believing Andraste was one of us. Makes executing her less damning, you see. So we elected a man as divine, the South declared war, and we've been feuding cousins ever since.
So the Imperial Divine is always a man?
All the better to distinguish him from that other one, yes. Don't think there aren't a number of female magisters who bristle at that. Why can't they be divine after all? Same reason you never see a man on the Sunburst throne. Because that's how it's always been done. Excellent reasoning.
Do you consider yourself Andrastian?
The big question. It might surprise you that I do consider myself Andrastian. I simply do not believe in the Chantry. It is a relic, whether back home or here in the South. Something from a bygone age desperately clinging to relevance. It's not an opinion that makes me popular.
I disagree. I don't think the Chantry is irrelevant.
Not to most, no. Perhaps just to me. I'll say this. I may not believe in the Chantry, but I believe in you.
In me?
That the Maker sent you, whether through Andraste or fate. Cassandra is not wrong. You saw that in the future, without you, Corypheus prevails. You are our bulwark against evil.
You don't seem like the religious sort, to be honest.
If you define religious as sitting in a chantry and listening to a blithering hen tell you how to live, then no. If you define it as believing in the possibility that something larger than yourself exists, then yes, by all means. The world is bigger than I, even bigger than you. It laughs at all the things we think we know. The Maker doesn't need me to believe, but I do. The thought of no one at all watching out for us is too frightening.
Let me ask you something else.
So many questions.
I'm wondering if the Imperium would be a useful ally.
I'd think you'd be more concerned whether or not they'd support the Venatori. They won't. At least, not officially. They'll disavow all knowledge of dangerous cultists. Secretly, many magisters will rejoice at the idea. And if the South falls to chaos in the meantime, all the better.
It would be in the Imperium's best interest to help. Surely it could use allies.
I think the Imperium gave up on the idea of allies a long time ago. We've been fighting the Qunari for what? 200 years off and on. It's a point of pride that we go it alone. They'll sneer at the South behind their silk handkerchiefs and say, "You've had it easy for far too long." Let's not forget that the Inquisition seems to be an arm of the Orlesian Chantry. Anathema so far as they're concerned.
We're not part of the Chantry. The Chantry opposed the Inquisition's formation.
You think that matters? Don't be silly. The Herald of Andraste. Your very title smacks of the Southern Chantry. You may as well be a heathen. I think they're far more frightened what you'll do if you succeed.
Just how often is blood magic used there?
Oh, not at all.
Not at all.
That's what any Magister would tell you. They'd be convincingly offended by the notion too. Of course, what people call blood magic here, and what we consider blood magic, are two different things.
What's considered actual blood magic in Tevinter?
Blood magic isn't inherently dangerous. Using your own blood or that of a willing participant, what's the harm? The problem is that what's permitted only gets you so much power. And what if you need more? You always need more. That's where we get into sacrifices and demon summoning. None of that is done. Not officially. Behind closed doors, it's a different story. Real blood magic can give you an edge, a leg up against your opponents. It's safe to assume that any mage of rank does it. The rest are quietly shut out of power, to put it bluntly.
You'd think the Templars would object.
I imagine they did, long ago. Once, their investigations might have been sincere. Then their balls were cut off. Too inconvenient. Nowadays, only the friendless are accused. Most of them probably innocent.
There must be some mages who oppose this.
Of course. I do. And I'm not entirely alone. Occasionally, there'll be a Magister who makes noise. And then the reform talk begins. All very patriotic. Meanwhile, that Magister will be quietly shunned. Chances are, surprise, it's learned he was a Maleficar all along. Most learn to keep quiet. Me? I enjoy the allure of pariahhood.
Anyone who talks about the Imperium mentions slavery. It's the center of the slave trade.
Ah. That is true.
And did you have slaves?
Not personally, but my family does and treats them well. Honestly, I never thought much about it until I came south. Back home, it's how it is. Slaves are everywhere. You don't question it. I'm not even certain many slaves do.
You think slaves like it that way? Don't be ridiculous.
I didn't say they like it. It's all most of them know. In the south, you have alienages, slums, both human and elven. The desperate have no way out. Back home, a poor man can sell himself. As a slave, he could have a position of respect, comfort, and could even support a family. Some slaves are treated poorly, it's true. But do you honestly think inescapable poverty is better?
At least they're free. They don't have slavery forced on them.
You think people choose to be poor and oppressed? I doubt it. I don't know what it's like to be a slave, true. I never thought about it until I saw how different it was here. But I suspect you don't know either. Nor should you believe that every tale of Tevinter excess is the norm.
That's all I wanted to know.
Fair enough.
I should go.
As you wish.
I cannot believe the Grey Wardens could even conceive of such a plan. To seek out these old gods deliberately, in some bizarre attempt to preempt the Blight.
How many lives were lost during the last Blight? Corypheus notwithstanding, I don't blame the Wardens for acting instead of reacting.
They acted stupidly.
By trying to end the Blight forever?
Yes. Would it have worked? Do you know? Did they? The fools who first unleashed the Blight upon this world thought they were unlocking ultimate power. Forgive me. The entire idea is unnerving. Inquisitor.
I'd be interested in hearing your opinions on elven culture.
Perhaps you could ask Sarah. She has opinions.
Sarah is part of our team. You don't need to be snide about her.
Actually, on some level, I do. She takes it better than she would take my pity. Or my envy. She has a purity of purpose that I lack. I have observed too much and done too little. What do you wish to know?
I'd like to know more about the elves from before our time.
The Dalish strive to remember Hallam Sharal. But Hallam Sharal was merely a fumbling attempt to recreate a forgotten land.
Arlathan.
Elvanan was the empire, and Arlathan its greatest city. Place of magic and beauty, lost to time.
You've studied ancient elves. What else do you know of Arlathan?
We hear stories of them living in trees, and imagine wooden ramps or Dalish Erebels. Imagine instead spires of crystal twining through the branches, palaces floating among the clouds. Imagine beings who lived forever, for whom magic was as natural as breathing. That is what was lost.
I'd like to know more about Dalish elves.
It is a mistake to think of the Dalish as a single group. They have lived as separate clans for centuries now. As a consequence, each clan has learned, interpreted, and forgotten different parts of elven history. Some trade freely with humans, or adopt city elves who flee the alienages. Others attack humans on sight.
What can you tell me about elves living in human cities?
The culture in alienages or among the slaves of Tevinter is like any of the impoverished and powerless. They cling to memories of a better past, and practice a few rituals to distinguish themselves from humans.
Is elven magic different from the magic used by humans?
No and yes. Magic is magic, just as water is water, but it can be used in different ways. Dalish magic is more practical, not needing chantry approval, although they still frown on blood magic. Superstition. Much of it is more subtle. A legacy from when elves were immortal.
The legends of elven immortality. Did they use magic to increase their lifespan?
No. It was simply part of being elven. The subtle beauty of their magic was the effect, not the cause of their nature. Some spells took years to cast. Echoes would linger for centuries, harmonizing with new magic in an unending symphony. It must have been beautiful.
You said that the censure against blood magic was a superstition.
I did. It's fortunate Cassandra is not within earshot. Most modern cultures forbid blood magic. Publicly, even Tevinter disapproves of it. But as I said, magic is magic. It matters only in how it is used.
To be honest, I don't see it as different from any other magic. It's a means to an end.
Indeed. The problem is that under the chantry, blood magic is forbidden, so only criminals practice it. While in Tevinter, magisters compete with each other instead of keeping their volatile friends in check. They always succeed through power, so they have never had the chance to learn another way.
We'll talk later.
Goodbye.
Inquisitor? If you've... My Lord Inquisitor, it's good of you to speak with me. I have news regarding one of your companions, the Tevinter.
Has Dorian done something wrong?
No, thankfully. It's nothing like that. I have been in contact with his family. House Pavas out of Carenas. Are you familiar with them?
Familiar? We've never met, if that's what you're suggesting.
I'm suggesting nothing. I'm only curious whether you know of his situation. The family sent a letter describing the estrangement from their son and pleading for my aid. They've asked to arrange a meeting quietly without telling him. They fear it's the only way he'll come. Since you seem to be on good terms with the young man, I'd hoped...
Just what kind of meeting do they have in mind?
I believe they just want to talk, to understand why Dorian felt he had to come here. Somewhere private, away from Skyhold, but not in Tevinter. You make them nervous, I think. They don't understand why he's here with the Inquisition. They want him to come home.
What happens if Dorian doesn't agree?
Hopefully that will be the end of it. If not, well, that's why you should be there.
Why would his family contact you?
Because they don't know you, Inquisitor. I am not of the Imperial Chantry, but they know what I represent. These are parents concerned about the welfare of their son. How could I not do whatever possible? I would speak to the young man myself, but he does not care for me. Thus I come to you. If any good can come of this, we must try.
They don't want Dorian to know? That seems odd.
They believe the young man would refuse, and the letter implies he'd have cause. Yet, they are remorseful for whatever came before. This is a chance for dialogue. There is deceit in bringing the young man to this meeting without his foreknowledge, I know. But does it not lead to a greater kindness if there is potential for reconciliation?
Are you sure this isn't some kind of trap? I mean, the secrecy.
That did occur to me. What if it is a plot of those mages, the Venatori? Another reason to put this in your hands, Inquisitor. I pray that isn't the case, but if it is, you are far better equipped than I to respond to such treachery.
I'll see what I can do.
Bless you, Inquisitor. The family will send a retainer to meet the young man at the Red Cliff Tavern, to take him onward. If he truly does not wish this reunion, he can always end the matter there. I shall pray for your success and the young man's happiness. That's all we can hope for, is it not?
Did I ever tell you about the time Hawk was on a Merchant Guild hit list? Hawk's uncle got into an investment scheme with a couple of merchant caste businessmen. They took a lot of people's coin in order to arrange the import of wandering hills from the Anderfells. A delicacy, I'm told. Their weird foreign foodstuffs arrived alive, and one of them, true to its name, wandered off in the middle of the night.
I know Hawk was your friend. This can't be easy for you.
I should have stopped him. He'd given up enough. The guild traced the shipments to Hawk's uncle, but as usual, he was so far in debt he couldn't see daylight. So they went after Hawk instead. They sent guys from the local carter to Hawk's estate one night. 5 big dusters, armed to the teeth. They're about to kick down the door when Hawk just opened it and invites them all inside. Leandra, Hawk's mother, made them tea, and for the next 2 hours tried to get them to make small talk. They wandered out of the house in a daze. No idea what just happened. Never came back. Hawk just had that effect on people. I always wanted to tell that one. Thanks. I guess I've got some letters to write. Carver should be told. Excuse me. I need to have a few words with my publisher. The first one will be you, and the second one will be Bastard. They've claimed for years my crime serials don't sell in Orlais. So why is the Council of Heralds asking me for autographs? Sorry, distracted. Anyway, you need something?
I've read your tale of the champion, and I have a few questions.
That's a pretty common reaction. Go ahead.
In the book, you say that first enchanter Orsino turned himself into a giant monster made of corpses. How? Why?
Do I look like an expert on magical weirdness to you? Well, I can't tell you how. For the why, all I can say is he was desperate.
Where are the rest of Hawk's associates now?
Meryl decided to look after the elves left homeless by the fighting. She's done a pretty good job of keeping them away from the mages and Templars, so far. I guess she has plenty of practice avoiding stupid human battles with her old Dalish clan. Fenris has kept himself busy, hunting down the Tevinter slavers who came south to prey on the refugees. I'm not sure exactly where he is at the moment. You can usually follow the trail of corpses, though. Isabella went back to the raiders. She's calling herself an admiral now. I don't know if she's actually in charge or just has a really big hat. Might be the same thing, honestly. Hawk's brother Carver is still in the free marches, helping the Kirkwall Guard keep order. Aveline is still guard captain. I'm pretty sure Kirkwall would fall into the sea if she quit her job. Sorry, I really need to write some letters. Another time, all right?
It's time to plan our next attack. What's the state of the Inquisition?
We're well loved in Orlais. Say the words and Empress Celine will send her support.
And your actions at Adamant denied Corypheus his army of pet demons. With Orlais' support, our numbers match his. Corypheus' followers must be panicking.
My agents agree. Our victories have shaken his disciples.
Perhaps they'll rethink following the Darkspawn Magister from the dawn of time. Where is Corypheus now?
After Adamant, Corypheus uprooted his major strongholds and sent them marching south to the Arbor Wilds. His army clearly wasn't prepared to flee. Our victories have them on the defensive.
They've terrorized Thetis long enough. We end them now. If Corypheus is hiding in the Arbor Wilds, that's where we'll go.
But what is Corypheus doing in such a remote area?
His people have been ransacking elven ruins since Haven. We believe he seeks more. What he hopes to find, however, continues to elude us.
Which should surprise no one. Fortunately, I can assist.
You have my attention, Lady Morrigan.
What Corypheus seeks in those Forgotten Woods is as ancient as it is dangerous.
Which is?
'Tis best if I show you. This is an Illuvian, an elven artifact from a time long before their empire was lost to human greed. I restored this one at great cost, but another lies within the Arbor Wilds. That is what Corypheus seeks.
It's beautiful in its way.
I found legends of an elven temple within the Arbor Wilds. Untouched. It proved too dangerous to approach, and thus I turned elsewhere to find my prize. If Corypheus has turned southward, he could succeed where I failed. The Illuvian would be his.
What does it do?
A more appropriate question would be, where does it lead? If this place once had a name, it has long been lost. I call it the Crossroads, a place where all Illuvians join, wherever they might be.
A useful trick.
For one who knows the way, certainly. The ancient elves left no roads, only ruins hidden in far-flung corners. This is how they traveled between them. As you can see, most of the mirrors are dark, broken, corrupted, or unusable. As for the rest, a few can be opened from this side, but only a few.
How did you find out about this place?
My travels have led me to many strange destinations, Inquisitor. Once, they led me here. It offered sanctuary.
Sanctuary?
Not all the mirrors lead back to our world. The ancients were nothing if not resourceful.
If they don't lead back to our world, then...
Places between, like this one. I can describe it no better. For a time, I was safe from those who hunted me, but only for a time. One cannot remain in between forever.
What do you mean, a few can be opened from this side?
Some of the Illuvians have been left unlocked, like doors accidentally left ajar. All others are closed. They can be opened only from beyond.
Opened how?
With a key.
I suppose you have such a key?
The key can be many things. Each Illuvian is different. I have knowledge as well as power. Often that is enough.
Corypheus wants to come here?
This is not the Fade, but it is very close. Someone with enough power could tear down the ancient barriers.
And enter the Fade in the flesh, like Corypheus wanted to do with the Anchor.
He learned of the Illuvian in the Arbor Wilds as I did. He marshals the last of his forces to reach it. You have made Corypheus desperate, Inquisitor. We must work together to stop him, and soon.
Will you need me again today?
Inquisitor, Elan Vemar. Honored to represent the College of Herbalists and offer my services as apothecary. I intend to carry on the work of my esteemed colleague, Adan. He thought highly of you. You will be missed.
I look forward to working with you.
And are you? I wasn't sure what to think of you people, but recent events have put those doubts to bed. All the mundane needs of Skyhold will be well tended. If you note anything special, let me know. I'm here to serve the cause we must.
Tis a large fortress, Inquisitor. To think, until recently this place stood decrepit, occupied only by the desperate and the lost. Now it is party to events that threaten to shake the world. I wonder if it is pleased.
It sounds like you've heard of Skyhold before.
This fortress was built upon the remains of a site holy to the ancient elves. They called it Tarasalan, the place where the sky is kept. It is said that from here, they reached up to the heavens to bring them down to rest. They abandoned it, as did the humans who came after them. Bones laid upon bones, silent until your arrival.
I like this place. I've made it mine.
The magic in this place has seeped into the stones, protecting it from darkness. Those who let it fall to ruin did not know what they possessed. You, I think, shall do it justice. You were kind to welcome my aid, Inquisitor, even knowing as little of me as you do. I will do my best to aid your cause with all the knowledge at my disposal. This I swear to you.
I appreciate whatever help you can give us.
Some might think Corypheus a madman for seeking godhood. Yet one must ask, what were the old gods? What secrets of theirs did the ancient magisters know? What I fear, what all should fear, is not that Corypheus believes he can succeed. 'Tis that he actually may. I understand you have spared the Grey Wardens from destroying what goodwill was left them. 'Tis good of you, considering the weakness Corypheus exploited was their own doing. Still, should a true archdemon one day arise, they will no doubt be needed. Or so they would have us believe.
Now that you've seen the Inquisition up close, what are your impressions?
'Tis remarkable what you have built. I will give you that. Leniana has built a network of spies beyond anything Thedas has seen. All this in precious little time, conjured from thin air through the power of fervor alone. I wonder if Corypheus suspected what he was enabling, just as I wonder what will become of all this once he is defeated.
We have to defeat him first. Then I'll worry about what's next.
Should that happen, the world will lie at your feet, more or less. Beware the heights you reach, Inquisitor. When this is done, many will be eager to knock you back down.
I'd like to know more about you.
Ah, yes. Whence comes the mystery woman slinking her way into the Inquisition's ranks? Once I was an apostate, living well away from the banal influence of the Chantry in the Kakari Wilds. Then came the Fifth Blight with its darkspawn, and I left Ferelden for the Empress's court. 'Tis certain the nobles of Orlais breathe a collective sigh of relief that I am now here.
It's odd that an apostate could live so openly.
It confuses those who expect apostates to cower and hide. I stand boldly before them and demand to know why I need some Chantry mage to teach me to control my power. They would put me on a leash so they can feel safer at night. I am uninterested in their comfort. Naturally, it helps to have friends in high places.
You were in Ferelden during the Blight?
The Blight began in the Kokari Wilds, so yes, I experienced it firsthand. Indeed, I fought at the hero of Ferelden's side for a time. He is the reason the Blight was defeated. We did not part on good terms. I regret a great deal, but that, most of all. And after that, I came to Orlais. The last place one would look for me, or such was my hope.
The Orlesian court seems like an odd place to find someone like you.
That was the point, originally. I knew the Empress was intrigued by the arcane, and that I could answer questions no Chantry mage could. Thus, we fit together nicely. I became her advisor, and she my benefactor and source of refuge. Truth be told, our arrangement would not have lasted much longer. Too many wagging tongues, even for Celine.
I leave you to the garden.
As you like.
Watch that tip, Morris.
Will you not consider it, Lady Cassandra? The clerics are still sequestered. If no one steps forward, they will debate until...
And you think I could make them agree? I've heard enough for one day, Mother Giselle.
Talk to her, your worship.
Is there a problem? It seems like she's bothering you.
Mother Giselle is kind, and she means well. So, yes, she was. I assume you've heard that Leliana and I are both candidates to be the next Divine. Because of what happened at Halam Shiral, of course, the Empire favors you. Thus, everyone close to you. So now the Chantry bandies our names about without even asking us first.
How can you and Liliana be candidates? You're not even priests.
It's not without precedent. Amar III was sister to the Emperor, and Galatea a commoner. Liliana and I were, at least, part of the Chantry hierarchy. It would be accepted.
I think you'd make an excellent Divine.
Truly? I never look good in hats. Surely it was never meant to be like this. The Chantry, the Circle of Magi, the Templars, this cannot be what they intended when it all began. The Chantry should provide faith, hope. Instead, it cannot veer from its course, even in the face of certain death.
I'm surprised to hear you, of all people, say that.
Oh? Am I not the same woman who declared the Inquisition against the Chantry's wishes? In all my years as a Seeker, I did what I was told. My faith demanded it. But now my faith demands something else. That I see with better eyes.
If you're concerned, then make it better.
Did you know Varric is Andrastian? Oh, he blasphemes with every second breath, but deep down he believes. His heart is virtuous. But he would never step foot in a Chantry. It should be the first place to which the virtuous turn. It needs to change. Perhaps I must be the one to change it.
Your determination is admirable.
Some men would call it an unattractive trait.
I'm not those men. You're not the only candidate. What about Liliana?
Liliana says she wishes to follow Justinia's legacy. But she and I remember a different person. Justinia knew her fellow clerics and the people would only accept so much change. Liliana would cast it all aside and start over, I think. And that would be chaos for us all.
What would you change about the Chantry?
The Circle of Magi has its place, but it needs reform. Let the mages govern themselves with our help. Let the Templars stand not as the jailers of mages, but as protectors of the innocent. We must be vigilant, but we must also be compassionate to all peoples of Thedas, human or no. That is what I would change.
So this is your new crusade?
I've agreed to nothing yet.
And if the Chantry calls on you?
Then I will do whatever I can, for as long as I can. I suppose I should not be so concerned. The clerics speak my name for now, nothing more. For now, restoring order and stopping Corypheus remain our priority. Writing does not come naturally to me, as I'm certain you can imagine.
Let me guess, you're composing a love poem.
I couldn't, not even if my life depended on it.
It's not that hard.
Yes, it is. Poetry takes finesse. It takes grace.
Do you think you don't have those things?
Historians will one day ask what happened at Adamant Fortress, in the Fade. I wasn't there, but others were. Their accounts must be recorded.
That's an excellent idea, Cassandra.
I certainly thought so, until I started writing. I still don't know what to say about the spirit of the divine. The Chantry teaches us that the souls of the dead pass through the Fade, so it could have been her. Yet even so...
Do you really think it might have been her? A ghost?
A ghost. A remnant of her hopes and memories. Her lingering will to do good. Those things are all possible. Nobody knows for certain what happens after we die. A spirit could have assumed her form, but why? It helped you, as Justinia herself would have.
Perhaps it doesn't matter what she really was then.
It matters to me, to what I must write. I wish I'd seen her, seen it. I feel so inadequate trying to interpret.
I believe it was the Divine. She helped us one last time.
I hope that's true. I want to believe it. When they told me you were physically in the Fade, I was terrified for you. The last time such a thing happened, we created Darkspawn. We created Corypheus. The world needs to know the truth this time. No more legends lost to the ages. I can keep staring at this, but I won't get any closer.
Something I can help you with?
Yes. Possibly. We saw so many Red Templars at the assault on Haven. Perhaps all that was left of the Order. What we didn't see was Lord Seeker Lucius. Indeed, I've seen no hint of any Seekers amongst the Red Templars, or anywhere. I have a growing suspicion Corypheus has imprisoned them.
Why imprisoned? He could just as easily have killed them.
Not easily. But yes, they may be dead. But the Seekers began this war against the mages. They cannot have simply vanished. There must be a trail we can follow, yet so far I have only discovered hints.
But they could have ended up just like the Red Templars.
Seekers do not use lyrium. I assume Corypheus gained control of the Templars by corrupting the lyrium they were already taking. To do the same to a Seeker, you'd have to force the lyrium upon him. That may be what happened, but it couldn't have begun that way. We're missing a piece of the puzzle, Inquisitor. I need to find it.
Finding them obviously means a lot to you.
I left the Order, but I can never abandon them. I cannot even claim that rescuing them would be beneficial. They wouldn't look kindly on the Inquisition. But even so, if there's a chance... If we can spare resources to follow up on these leads, Inquisitor, I would appreciate it.
Inquisitor.
To work?
At your service.
I understand if resources cannot be spared to help search for the missing Seekers, Inquisitor. Still, it could involve a threat we are unaware of. There may be a use in looking.
I'd like to get to know you better.
You would?
Is that a problem?
Not entirely. I'm just curious as to your motivation.
Is there any harm in us becoming a little closer?
Plenty.
Is that right?
As you wish. My name is Cassandra Pentagast, daughter of the Royal House of Navarra, 78th in line for the Navarran throne. I joined the Seekers of Truth as a young woman, and was with the Order until they withdrew from the Chantry. I remained as the Divine's right hand, carrying out her order to form the Inquisition. And here we are. That's all there is to know, my lord.
You're a member of Navarra's royal family.
The Pentagasts are a very large clan. Half of Cumberland could say the same.
Really?
No, but it feels that way. I have hundreds of relatives so distant they need charts to prove we're related at all. And they have them. Oh yes. The Pentagasts value their precious blood like it runs with gold.
And you joined the Seekers to get away from that?
It was a life worth getting away from. The Pentagasts are famed for dragon hunting, but few actually pursue the craft. Most are fat and lazy. They pay lip service to the Maker and care only for idle pleasures and past glories. My brother was all that kept me in Navarra. Once he was gone, so was I.
Tell me about your brother.
I would prefer not to speak of Anthony. Another time, perhaps.
You don't seem to like your homeland much.
My family polluted it for me. What little I saw of my homeland was through the bars of a gilded cage. My uncle treated me like a porcelain doll to be placed on a shelf and dusted only when necessary. Thus, I did not see Navarra, the real Navarra, until much later. By then, I realized I knew it not at all.
Your uncle? What about your parents?
They had the misfortune of taking the wrong side in the second attempt to overthrow King Marcus. The king executed them, but spared my brother and I since we were family, and children at the time. Thus we were raised by my uncle, a mortalitasi who preferred the company of his corpses to the living.
Your uncle was a mortalitasi?
A death mage. He still is. My countrymen do not burn the dead, they bury them in special crypts. The mortalitasi supervise the crypts, like priests. Uncle Vestalis oversees the grand necropolis. Navarrans spend more time honoring dead relatives than they do with living ones. It is odd to be so fascinated with death and its trappings. I will never understand it.
So you were the right hand to the Divine?
To Divine Justinia, yes. And Divine Beatrix before her, in fact. The position is normally reserved for Templars of the Knights Divine, but my circumstances were unusual.
Unusual how?
You don't know the story? Thank the Maker. I will tell you if you wish, but it isn't as exciting as some drum it up to be. The short version is that I once saved the previous Divine's life. My reward was becoming her right hand.
But what does a right hand do exactly?
What is your hand capable of? It gives, it takes, it beckons. It makes a fist. Liliana and I extended the Divine's reach beyond the Grand Cathedral. We went where she could not. After Beatrix, I was tired of the position and wanted to return to the Seekers. But Justinia convinced me to stay. Her vision for the future gave me hope.
You thought she could really change things?
Justinia knew the war was coming long before it began. She tried to avert it, but the forces arrayed against her were too strong. Sometimes you have to break a bone so it can be reset. That's where the Inquisition comes in. It was to be the answer. A means to preserve as well as an agent for change. I only wish she had lived to see it.
So what's the story about you becoming the right hand?
Sweet Andraste, do you really want to hear that? It was, what, 18, 20 years ago? Some still discuss it like it happened yesterday. The tale gets bigger each time it's told. I barely recognize myself within it now.
I'm sure you're just being modest.
I was there. I think I know what happened. To hear others tell it, I alone saved Divine Beatrix from a horde of dragons sent to assault the Grand Cathedral. Rather impressive for such a young seeker, wouldn't you say?
And the truth is?
I stumbled upon a conspiracy to kill Beatrix. A Templar Knight Commander was at its heart. And there was a dragon battle at the Grand Cathedral. But I had help from loyal mages who rallied to the cause. They freed the dragons from magical control. Without them, the Divine and I would both have died. Yet I became the right hand, and they are forgotten.
What happened to the mages that helped you?
They went back to their circles, with rewards and privileges and Most Holy's gratitude. Many of them died at the Conclave.
You're delightful. You know that?
No, I do not know that. I object. There is nothing delightful about me.
I beg to differ.
Who could have guessed the Inquisitor would be so odd?
I'll let you get back to work.
We all did.
Commander Cullen did good work at Adamant. Breached those walls like he'd done it a dozen times. Nice job with the demons, by the way.
I'd like to know more about the Iron Bull.
The Chief. First time I met him, he saved my life. I never thought I'd work for Canary, but he grows on you. He's not like any commander I've ever worked for. That's for damn sure.
How's Iron Bull as a commander?
If you know what you're doing and hold up your end, he's easy. He doesn't accept any less. He keeps us alive, he leads from the front, and if you've an idea that'll win the fight, he listens. I've seen bands whose captains had to prove they were swinging the biggest sword. Bull isn't like that. The charges might give him more lip than you'd expect, but every one of us would lay down our lives for the big ass.
How did a Tevinter soldier wind up in a Kunari spy's mercenary company?
I wasn't a soldier at the time. I was in some trouble, trying to flee to Winter. A Tribune and his men caught me in a border town tavern. They meant to make an example of me. Bull killed them. Gave up his eye doing it. Patched me up and asked if I was looking for work. I've been putting up with his jokes ever since.
That's how he lost the eye?
Yes. The guards had me on the tavern floor when Bull came inside and yelled for them to stop. One of them saw trouble coming and figured he'd finish me off. The guard had a flare. Bull put himself between me and the blow. Big old idiot. Didn't even know me.
Is it strange to work for a Canary?
He hasn't tried to convert us to the Qun, if that's what you're asking. Vols charters don't care who you light a candle for, so long as your shield stays up. If he hadn't told me he was Ben Hasroth, I'd have thought he'd left that life behind.
I didn't expect he'd tell you all that he was a spy.
Not the whole band, but those who've been around long enough to trust. He figures most of us would find out sooner or later, and it should come from him. Eyes to eye, he says. It's never messed up a job. He just writes letters back home. Lots of the boys write letters back home.
We'll talk later.
Sarah was never an agreeable girl. Her tongue tells tales of rebellion, but she
The
was
funniest thing I've seen in years. That cat dancing around, hopping and pantsing like a fool. Made my day bright, it did. Maker knows what got into the little rat catcher.
But she knew always among men, and she knew how to enrage them. She would always like to say, why change the past when you could understand today? She will fight to keep her away. She's a rogue and a thief, and she'll tempt your fate.
Inquisitor.
And you are...
The bartender, Cabot.
just the bartender?
You were expecting...
Well, welcome to the Inquisition.
Thank you. Welcome to the tavern.
What's the current mood?
Sprightly.
Where did you study? I assume you trained.
In bartending? I'm no alchemist. You mix the bottles that don't taste like nug and you pretend to listen. I suppose I trained at home during feast day family visits. My specialty is ale. Old Antivan recipe. The secret is ale.
You're a bit of a hard ass. Why are you here?
If I could fight, I'd be in a helmet. If I was a mage, I'd throw fire. And probably be dead. But I can't do anything. Just like the hundreds of people who can't do anything. Who make sure the thousands who can do something can do it. Besides, if you know a safer place than your castle, do share.
What's the word out there?
The admirals of the Felicissima Armada are disappointed the Inquisition is primarily inland.
As you were.
Inquisitor?
I hope I can help somehow. Maybe click.
Your son.
Oh, Inquisitor, I joined Sutherland, your worship. I saw some bandits, so I came to warn people. I'll let your warriors know and then stay out of the way.
I'll ask around again tomorrow.
Thank you.
No. But you like demons! I enjoy the company of spirits, yes, which is part of why I do not abuse them with bindings. It isn't abuse if I ask. Not always true. Also, I do not practice blood magic, which renders this entire conversation academic. He won't bind me. He's a mage and he likes demons, but he won't help.
Why would you want Solus to bind you?
So I'm safe.
Solus won't do the ritual to bind me. Someone else could. Will. Like the Warden mages. And then... I'm not me anymore. Walls around what I want. Blocking, bleeding, making me a monster.
A mage using blood magic could conceivably do that to any one of us, human or demon.
You should ask Solus to bind you too. And then someone can bind him.
There has to be some middle ground between do nothing and bind Cole with blood magic.
Indeed. I recall stories of amulets used by Ravani's seers to protect spirits they summoned from rival mages. A spirit, wearing an amulet of the Unbound, was immune to blood magic and binding. It should protect Cole as well. The resources of the Inquisition could be used to find such a talisman.
Good. They will not take me.
Slit a throat. Not think twice.
You are that good a judge of character?
I didn't understand the Grand Ball. It would have been easier if they said what they wanted.
Orlesian nobles see politics as a great competition.
Yes, but none of them ever win.
I'd like to talk about what happened to you before we met.
Before you, Reese was my friend. He showed me I was wrong to kill the mages. I thought I was helping them. Then he and Evangeline went to Adamant, and I went with them. I was worried Evangeline would hurt Reese. We found out dangerous things. It scared Seeker Lambert, and he scared the mages. It started the rebellion. Seeker Lambert told me what I was. Reese couldn't look at me. I ran until I found more Templars. That's all.
What was the Spire like when the Mage Rebellion started?
Dead and dying, begging and bloody. Some wanted freedom, some peace, some war. Some wanted it all to stop. Evangeline was a Templar, but she helped Reese help the others. She set them free. Adrian was a mage, but she killed mages to force the fight. She wanted blood. Reese just wanted to help, to stop people hurting. Maybe that's why he saw me.
What can you tell me about Reese?
He was a mage. He saw me when most couldn't, and he remembered. He helped me, and I watched over him. I worried Evangeline would hurt him. She was a Templar, but she didn't like hurting people. When I left, she stayed. Now she watches over him. They should have been with the rebels. Maybe they ran away together instead. Neither of them like killing.
If you like, I could use the resources of the Inquisition to locate your friend.
No. If they are alive and safe, they should stay away. The last time he saw me, he didn't want to look at me. He saw a monster. Let him forget.
What did you mean when you said you killed mages?
Some of the mages at the Spire wanted to die. Too sad, too scared, too much. I didn't know what I was. A ghost, I thought. Fading in the fade. When I came to them, they could see me. I used the knife to set them free. When Reese found out, he made me stop, made me understand. There were other ways to help. I didn't know.
You wanted to free them from pain and fear. You shouldn't be ashamed of that.
I am. I didn't know. I could have helped more if I'd known. If I hadn't been so... me. It was wrong. I was wrong. If I start again, you or Cassandra or Cullen need to kill me.
What can you tell me about Adamant Fortress?
It is old, full of sadness and pain. It should be torn down. Thank you for not making me go.
You said Seeker Lambert told you what you were.
I'm hiding Reese from him, but he chants words and sees. I won't let you hurt Reese. My nose explodes, a shower of blood. Just another parasite that's wormed its way into our world, feeding off all the things you can't have. What we found at Adamant made him angry. We were the first rock rolling at the top of a mountain. He had to stop us. He killed so many. He didn't care. Cold, corrupt. So I came and killed him.
If you hated Seeker Lambert, why go to the Seeker Fortress?
Because he was right. I was a demon. I saw demons at Adamant. They put people in the dark, in the old hurts. I didn't want to be that. I heard the old songs of the Templars at Val Royeaux and followed them. If I forgot, fought, fell to felling, Templars would kill the demon. I wouldn't hurt anyone again.
I'll talk to you later.
How do you know?
Good day to you.
Heard what went on in that Fade thing. What you think went on. Can't even start to believe that business.
I think a lot of people are having trouble with what went on there.
People going on about visions and piss when real people are gone. Dead, probably. Hawk, yeah? Lost a champion. And in trade, a busted down bunch of wardens. And they're always weird. Usually, bad stuff happens first, so you're glad when the hero shows up. But wardens are the wrong way round. They're the good thing that means a bad thing is about to happen. Like in Denerim, when the Blight ended.
A lot happened in Denerim. What did you see?
People talked a lot about this one warden. There was a big fight and they died, or... I don't know, maybe they didn't.
The hero of Ferelden. You forget the hero of Ferelden?
That was ages ago. 10 years. I was playing with small painted boxes and burying stuff I stole. I remember more people cringing about magic than Blight. Wardens were an excuse for your stuff to go missing. Blackwall's nice, though. Different from the Adamant ones. Need more like him. Hey, you. I have an Inquisitor favor to ask. Just a little thing, really. A little march around for some of your people. It's nothing for you, right?
All right, let's hear what you've got.
Jump right in, huh? I like that. It's a Red Jenny thing. I got a tip that some noble stiffs are arguing over Verschel. Land squabble. They're getting little people beat up. So I need you to go to your big table and send some people to walk through town.
Just walk through?
Just walk through. Easy, right?
Was this a tip from one of your friends?
Not a Jenny. Just normal angry people getting sick of being in the middle. I don't usually hear about things this far away. But having a friend like you is like getting really big ears. Bigger ears, I guess. Shut up.
Who's asking for this?
I'm asking because I heard people complaining. See, when nobles fight, it's not them. It's their little people stuck in the middle. It's like a polite war, so no one pays attention. But if you march through, the people up top feel threatened too. Stuff like this is always happening. Good sovereigns to be made if you're one of the few who notice.
What does the Inquisition get out of this?
Nobles think everyone is out to get them. So when your helmets march through, both sides will think the other's your ally. Both get scared, both make deals. Worst case, you get a little bump among the people just because they see you active. Can't promise anything, but something will happen. Just like always.
All right, Sarah. I'll have someone look into it.
It's fun, right? Being important without doing a thing. Well, not much of a thing. Not everything has to be torn skies and ancient arseholes. Every little thing makes a difference somewhere. You have a problem. That over there is a full tavern, but everyone's drinking alone. They're all up their own arses about the Inquisition. I can't have fun with everybody whinging, and they'll fall on their swords before Corypheus can push them. I'm thinking pranks. Set a few up, knock a few down. You in or not?
You have an odd idea of preparation. I need to keep them at their best.
What's best then, Mopey? Constantly ready for death to fall from the gaping hole up there. I know people. Pissed off and fired up is better than dreary bleary. Come on.
Just you and me. You know, I would like that.
Don't get excited. You're not my thing. Your thing is not my thing. You still coming or not?
Lead the way.
What, really?
Really?
I knew you were different. Let's go. Right, general uptight is gone. Have a search about. Find something to mess with and give you... What, the desk? Oh, yes. Center of the Empire and all that. What to do, what to do.
All right, Sarah. What do you want to do?
Thing looks heavy. Don't want to move or break it. I got it. Easy one. Just a slip of something under here. There, won't notice much, but it's just that little bit wonky. He's so in control that'll piss him royally. I tell one of the soldiers and boom, the general seems like people. And since he works for you, you seem like people. Come on, next one. Right, little lady Prissy Pants. Have a look for something she liked. What, just the door? Where she greets every important idiot. Yes.
Well, Sarah, what do you have in mind?
Get a bucket. Classic, yeah? 5 minutes of sloppy boss gets you weeks of happy kitchen staff. Except for the one who cleans it up, I suppose. But whatever. Next up. What's that? A locked... No, leave that. Not interested in her hidden things. Not for just a bit of fun. Maybe feed her messengers something gassy? No, bears don't pop. But they flap and...
Who is up there?
Go!
That was fun. An inquisitor of the people, still remembering you're one of them. If all they got was the herald stuff, the serious bit, you'd start to sound pretty scary. That works, but not for long.
Whatever it takes. I'd start throwing pies if it kept people inspired.
Pies is so good, and Corypheus would never do that. Good thing for you, innit? Because from the bottom, everyone up top sort of seems the same. Anyway, fun time, Inquisitor. You! Oh, frig. You did it!
The heroes trode the winding road, defiant of the vile. Uncertain pause for home and cause when met the monsters. Inquisitor, a title hard to rhyme. A challenge for another day, I think. Forgive me my distractions, Eminence. I'm overwhelmed by you and what you've done. My name is Merideth, a humble bard.
What do you bring to the Inquisition?
A simple thing that you know well. The power of a muse to rally hearts and minds. Inquisitor, I want to spread the word of what you've done. A small but vital role. Perhaps I'll also make a coin or two.
Are you a bard, like those of Orlais?
Oh, heavens no. I'm a minstrel first. My weapon is a cutting tongue, not blades. I hope my skills will help in some small way, if only I can give your deeds their due.
Carry on, then.
Oh, I will do my best, Inquisitor.
Back, yeah? Always good.
What do you think about the people who have gathered?
Which? The ones who do things or the ones who give orders?
What about Solus?
Solus? His head's crammed up 1,000 years ago.
Anything to say about Varric?
Varric? Too clever. Always saying something, but never saying it straight.
Thoughts about Cassandra?
Not as buttoned up as she plays, right? Tough, though. I'd stand behind her in front of anything.
What do you think about our spy master, ambassador, and commander?
Liliana is pretty in places. Swear I've seen her, too. Or heard she used to play. But that'd be mad. Now, Josephine, she's as good at humbling her kind as I am. Just with less mess. Knows her business, if you have to have it. And Cullen, I suppose if you want a jackboot, you get a big one so you can grow into it. Nice hair, though.
What about Dorian?
He's fun. Could lose a bit more to Vinter.
What about Cole?
I'm not saying nothing about that. That thing is just wrong.
What's your opinion of Vivienne?
She's a bitch, but she knows. She better.
Thoughts on Iron Bull?
It makes me wonder about things. I mean, what do their women look like? Woof.
Any thoughts about Warden Blackwall?
He's too good, right? I'd like to see him out of that uniform. Not like that.
We'll talk later.
Good, right? I'll be here.
There is an issue that you should address. I think it's worth your time, Inquisitor.
Inquisitor! Come, have a drink. To killing a high dragon like warriors of legend. Oh. I know, right? Put some chest on your chest. That little gurgle right before it spat fire. And that roar. What I wouldn't give to roar like that. The way the ground shook when it landed. The smell of the fires burning. Tarsidathan Halsam. You know, Kunari hold dragons sacred. Well, as much as we hold anything sacred. Here, your turn. That thing you just said. You shouted it during the fight, too. What does it mean? Oh, Tarsidathan Halsam. Closest translation would be, I will bring myself sexual pleasure later, while thinking about this with great respect. You shouted that while it was breathing fire at us? I know, right? Oh. Yes, the second cup's easier. Most of the nerves in your throat are dead after the first one. Atashi, the glorious ones. That's our word for them. Atashi.
Why do you think the Qunari think of dragons that way?
Well, you know how we have horns. We kind of look more dragony than most people. Maybe it's that. But a few of the Ben Hasrath have this crazy old theory. See, the Tamasrans control who we mate with. They breed us for jobs like you'd breed dogs or horses. What if they mixed in some dragon a long time ago? Maybe drinking the blood, maybe magic, I don't know. But something in that dragon we killed spoke to me.
It's a shame we had to kill the dragon.
Damn good fight. Dragons are the embodiment of raw power. But it's all uncontrolled. Savage. So, they need to be destroyed. Taming the wild. Order out of chaos. Have another drink. Nice. To dragons.
To finding the biggest, baddest things in the world and showing them that we're badder.
Anan. Again. Again. Come on! This is why the Qun doesn't like women fighting. I should have asked Cullen. Good one.
Perhaps you can take over.
Qunari training exercise to master your fear. Been a while since I needed it, but that nightmare demon was big.
Can you explain why I'm supposed to hit you with this stick?
Probably, if I try. It'd involve a lot of Qunari words, though. Just hit me with the stick, all right? I need to get over this demon crap.
All right.
There we go. Oh, yeah. Damn demon. Who's stuck in the fade, huh?
So we're working out your fear with a stick.
Less talking, more hitting. Piece of feed, piece of crap! And who killed you? That's right, Iron fucking Bull! I needed that. Thanks, boss.
Are you sure you don't want to talk about it?
We just did.
You're certain?
I don't know. So, that Tevinter guy sent you into the future?
Every time I think I understand magic, the rules change.
I know, right? If I were a mage, I'd just throw fire at people. That's honest. Man, those serving girls are frisky.
I'd like to know more about your work with the Ben Hasrath.
Ben Hasrath is actually a general term. You've got the secret police who investigate problems inside our territory. You've got the re-educators who take people with problems and fix their minds. Or make them disappear. And then you've got the spies.
How do the re-educators work?
Well, I only know the basics. Wasn't my area. That said, keep a man awake long enough. Ask the right questions, give the right potions, and you can get him to say anything. You don't need blood magic or demons to change someone's mind. We're a lot more fragile than we'd like to believe.
You can alter someone's beliefs that easily?
One of my friends was a re-educator. He said that every memory is like the page of a book. When you examine a memory, you're turning to that page, and when you're there, the page is laid bare. Write a few notes in the margins of the page, erase a word here and there, and your whole outlook changes. I always felt a little weird reading after that conversation.
The re-educators sound horrible.
Yeah, they probably do. Here's the thing, though. What happens in Orlais when you commit a crime or betray a lord? They just lop your head off. At least the Qunari try to fix you.
And you're a spy?
Close. I am now, I suppose. But that's not how I started. They sent me to Saharan because they needed someone who could fight and hunt down problems. That whole island was a sack of cats. Incursions from Tevinter, Tal Vashath, and native rebels fighting both sides. And in the middle, me, trying to wrangle the rebels and restore order.
I can't imagine that was easy.
Nope. I hunted down a lot of rebels. Lost a lot of friends to the Vince, or the Fog Warriors, or the Tal Vashath. One day I woke up and couldn't think of a damned reason to keep doing my job. Turned myself into the re-educators.
Not many people would have the courage to do that.
I thought about letting some rebel kill me, but I couldn't give any of those bastards the satisfaction. The Ben Hasrath ordered me to go to Orlais, ostensibly as a Tal Vashath, and work undercover. That's how I ended up here.
It sounds like you had a rough life under the Qun.
What, 3 meals a day and free sex whenever I need it? I came out here for the challenge, boss. Figured I'd rough it with you savages. Anyway, nice talking with you. Pleasure as always, boss.
Can you tell me more about Saharan?
It was a damn ugly place. Only getting uglier when I left. Between the Fog Warriors, the Tal Vashath, my people, and the Vince. You were lucky to go a day without blood. What do you want to know?
What were the Fog Warriors like?
They were the worst of the rebels. They trained for stealth attacks. They made this fog. I never saw any mages, so I figured it was alchemy, not magic. They were almost invisible in it. I'd be on patrol in the market square. The fog would roll in, and before I knew it, half my squad dead without a sound.
It almost sounds like you admire them.
They didn't use poison. They didn't hurt civilians, and they were damn good fighters. You have to respect that. Plus, they hit the Vince as hard as they hit us. Hearing some terrified Magister scream, "My slaves! Where are my slaves?" in the fog always put a smile on my face.
Tell me about the Tal Vashath.
When Qunari can't handle the fighting in Saharan or lose faith in the Qun, they go rogue. They flee into the wilderness and turn into bandits, attacking everyone. They're vicious, savage. You look at them and you can see why my people needed the Qun to stay civilized.
Isn't that what you did, though?
Hey, when I burned out, I didn't go rogue. I reported in and went where the Ben Hasrath sent me. I'm doing my job. serving the Qun out here. I'm not some bandit. I am nothing like them.
Tell me about the Tevinter people you fought.
The Vince sent forces to Saharan every autumn. Guess they didn't like the summer heat. We had some good fights on the beaches, standing in knee-high water foaming red with blood, ships on fire around us. The cities were worse. Free bit of advice. Don't let the Inquisition forces get suckered into urban combat.
Why do you hate Tevinter forces so much? What makes them so bad?
It's not their armies. It's their spies. They bloodied Saharan year-round, killing loyalists, supporting rebels. Alam had no city administrator. Nobody would accept the position. The last 4 who held it died inside a year. Trying to conquer a country is one thing. Making it so nobody can live there, that just screws everyone.
What are things like for the natives of Saharan?
I remember one guy. He made these things, fish wrapped in thin bread. Nice guy. Talked to him every morning. So, one time I'm asking about his bad back, and I see he's nervous, trying to tell me something with his eyes. Next thing I know, his assistants draw knives and come at my team. The rebels had forced him to poison my food.
And then?
I'd seen how nervous he was, so I hadn't eaten anything. A couple of my guys weren't so lucky. We killed the rebels. I lost 2 men to the poison, another to knife wounds. My friend who made the fish wraps died with a knife in his throat. Close quarters fight. He was caught in the middle. That is what things are like for the natives of Saharan.
See you later, Paul.
Nice talking with you, boss. Hey, you need me?
I'd like to know more about the Kunari.
You writing a book?
What I've heard about them sounds fascinating.
What you've heard was mostly horse shit. All right. What do you want to know?
How do the Kunari rule themselves?
It's pretty simple. We've got the matriarchy, the priesthood, and the military. The priesthood figures out how Kunari should live in theory. The matriarchy makes it work in practice. And the military keeps the Kunari safe from outside threats.
Does it actually work like that? Is there much infighting?
Not like you're thinking of. People disagree, yeah, but the priests are there to solve disagreements. Here in Olay, politicking comes from people putting their own gain ahead of the gains of society. If you do that among the Kunari, the Ben Hasrath set you straight, or kill you.
Did you ever think about what would happen if the Kunari conquered Olay or Eldon?
Some folks, like Cassandra or Cullen, would do fine if they didn't die fighting. Those 2 love rules. But the mages, Vivienne's too political, Dorian's too arrogant, and Solus is just weird. They'd all end up dead, or worse. They'd kill Cole, cause, you know, demon. And Sarah would end up with her mind broken, sweeping floors in some shop. So, to answer your question, no, I don't think about it much at all.
I heard there's no marriage among the Kunari.
Yeah, that's true. Kunari love our friends like anyone does, but we don't have sex with them.
Kunari don't have sex?
Oh, we definitely have sex. They're Tamasrans who pop your cork whenever you need it.
Seriously?
Yeah. It's not a big deal like it is here. It's like, I don't know, going to see a hero. Sometimes it's this long, involved thing. It takes all day, leaves you walking funny. Other times you're in and out in 5 minutes. Thank you. See you next week.
That sounds different.
Yep. Still, it's more fun here. Fewer rituals, more making it up as you go along. Plus, you folk have redheads. Redheads.
How is everyday life different for Kunari?
Depends on your job, I guess. Some are just about the same. A baker in Valroyo gets up, gets dressed, and starts work. A baker in Parvulan does the same thing. They don't care about the Empire or the Q. Mostly they worry about breaking eggs and hope the dough rises right. I
can't be exactly the same. The Qunari have no personal freedoms.
How many personal freedoms do you figure that baker in Val Royale has? Life isn't about freedom. The baker in Parvolin wonders if she'll be given enough eggs to do her work. Will they come on time? Will the kitchen workers get her bread while it's fresh, or will they come late and blame her because it's stale? Same crap in Val Royale. People are just people.
What's it like growing up under the Qun?
The Tomasrans raise us in these units of kids all our own age. They're like teachers or chantry sisters. They also help figure out what jobs we should do. They had me pegged for military work early on. When they learned I could hit stuff and lie, they started training me for the Ben Hasra.
You never knew your parents?
No. I know for you folks, that's a big deal. The Tomasrans were like our parents, though. Taught us to read, helped us go to sleep, all the parent stuff. I remember the one who helped me build things with blocks. She laughed when I knocked everything down.
The word Qunari, is that the race or the religion?
Both. Kind of. The humans and elves who follow the Qun are the Vidathari. The Qunari who break away from the Qun are Talvasha, deserters.
What about Qunari who existed before the Qun?
The people we came from. They're called the Kossith, but we don't use that word for the race. We came south to Thedas because the Kossith were... I don't know. We had to leave. The stories aren't clear. But I don't expect they look much like us. Whatever they are.
See you later, Bo.
Nice talking with you, boss.
It's you. Your worship. I'm serving now. In a different way.
So, this is Skyhold. Come, let's walk the ramparts. I want to examine our fortifications. We'll be able to see Corypheus coming from miles away.
On the other hand, that means he can see us from miles away.
Let him come. I swear I'll take the twister bastard down, even if I have to die to do it.
I'm grateful for your support.
It's my job, isn't it? Killing Darkspawn. Look, in spite of it all, there is hope. The people flock to your banner. They believe in you. Tell me honestly, are you what they say you are? Andraste's chosen?
There's so little I remember. What if they're right?
Does it even matter? Don't you see what you are to them? Without you, they'd be consumed by despair. We all would. They need you to be Andraste's messenger. It gives them hope. The truth doesn't matter. Listen to me talk. Your time is valuable and I've wasted enough of it.
As leader of the Inquisition, there's something I must tell you.
Whatever it is, I'm willing to listen.
Right. Thank you. Lyrium grants Templars our abilities, but it controls us as well. Those cut off suffer. Some go mad, others die. We have secured a reliable source of lyrium for the Templars here. But I no longer take it.
You stopped?
When I joined the Inquisition. It's been months now.
Why are you doing this?
After what happened in Kirkwall, I couldn't. I will not be bound to the Order, or that life any longer. Whatever the suffering, I accept it. But I would not put the Inquisition at risk. I've asked Cassandra to watch me. If my ability to lead is compromised, I will be relieved from duty.
Cassandra takes things as seriously as you do. If she has no problem with this, neither do I.
I thought you had a right to know. The Inquisition's army must always take priority. Should anything happen, I will defer to Cassandra's judgment. First the Templars, now the Grey Wardens. Both devoted their lives to fighting evil. Now they serve it.
Not by choice. They were manipulated by Corypheus.
I'm not sure that's a comfort. The Inquisition must serve as an example. We must stand where others fall.
You and the Red Templar's leader seem to have personal history.
When I arrived in Kirkwall, Samson and I shared quarters. He seemed a decent man at first. Knight Commander Meredith later expelled Samson for erratic behavior. He ended up begging on Kirkwall streets. He committed further crimes, but managed to evade the Order's justice. Now Samson serves Corypheus as his loyal general.
Why do you think Samson joined Corypheus?
He had a chronic lyrium addiction. He spent every last coin buying it from local smugglers. Perhaps Corypheus flattered his vanity, gave him purpose as well as lyrium. Perhaps that's all it took.
It sounds like Samson had a miserable life.
The Order expelled him, but he had choices. He could have found another path. I don't understand how he became so powerful. Even with red lyrium, Samson's glory days are long behind him. I'd be perfectly happy never again setting foot in the Winter Palace. It wasn't the gossip and backstabbing, I know what the game entails, but the indifference to it all.
I didn't care for it myself.
I shouldn't be surprised. The Chantry can be the same. Their politics are less extravagant, but just as heated. The Empress rules a country. The Divine influences half a continent.
I'd like to know more about the Templars.
What would you like to know?
Why did you join the Order?
I could think of no better calling than to protect those in need. I used to beg the Templars at our local chantry to teach me. At first, they merely humored me, but I must have shown promise, or at least a willingness to learn. The Knight Captain spoke to my parents on my behalf. They agreed to send me for training. I was 13 when I left home.
13. That's still so young.
I wasn't the youngest there. Some children are promised to the Order at infancy. Still, I didn't take on full responsibilities until I was 18. The Order sees you trained and educated first.
What about your family? Did you miss them?
Of course, but there were many my age who felt the same. We learned to look out for one another.
Do the Templars do anything besides hunt mages?
Templars protect against the dangers of magic. Before the Order left the Chantry, that meant serving in a circle. They were also tasked with tracking apostates, or fighting demons inevitably summoned by the weak or malicious.
You've made it clear that you consider mages a threat.
Any mage can be. I won't pretend otherwise. I've seen the suffering magic can inflict. I've treated mages with distrust because of it, at times without cause. That was unworthy of me. I will try not to do so here. Not that I want mages moving through our base completely unchecked. We need safeguards in place to protect people, including mages, from possession at the least.
You've lived in the Circle. What was a typical day for a Templar there?
Typical. The last time I was in a circle was right before it fell apart. Nothing was typical.
Before that, then?
Certain rituals require a full guard. A mage's harrowing, for instance. I've attended a few. Most of the time, you merely maintain a presence, on patrol or in the circle. ready to respond if needed. Mages pretend to ignore that presence, but they're watching you just as closely.
Do Templars and mages never speak to each other?
Some do, but Templars are supposed to maintain a certain distance from their charges. If a mage is possessed or uses blood magic, you must act quickly, without hesitation. Your judgment cannot be clouded. Of course, ignoring one another does nothing to foster understanding.
What does Templar training involve?
There is weapon and combat training. Even without their abilities, Templars are among the best warriors in Thedas. Initiates must also memorize portions of the Chant of Light, study history, and improve their mental focus.
Did you enjoy your training?
I wanted to learn everything. If I was giving my life to this, I would be the best Templar I could.
You were a model student.
I wanted to be. I wasn't always successful. Watching a candle burn down while reciting the Chant of Transfigurations wasn't the most exciting task. I admit, my mind sometimes wandered.
Do Templars take vows? I swear to the Maker to watch all the mages. That sort of thing?
There's a vigil first. You're meant to be at peace during that time, but your life is about to change. When it's over, you give yourself to a life of service. That's when you're given a filter, your first draft of lyrium and its power. As Templars, we are not to seek wealth or acknowledgement. Our lives belong to the Maker and the path we have chosen.
That's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Another time, then. Was there something you needed?
I should get to know you better. We're working together, after all.
What would you like to know?
All right, where are you from?
I grew up in Ferelden, near Honleith. I was transferred to Kirkwall shortly after the Blight. Traveling to Haven was the first I'd returned in almost 10 years.
You were away from Ferelden for 10 years. Was it strange being back there again?
Strange? No. If anything, the opposite. I was not sorry to leave Ferelden when I did. I had no desire to return. But leaving Haven was more difficult than I would have imagined. Not just because Corypheus forced it upon us. It felt like I was abandoning my home. I never thought I'd feel that way again.
You were in Ferelden during the Blight. Did you fight Darkspawn?
No. I was stationed at Ferelden's Circle Tower. The Circle had troubles of its own. I remained there during the Blight.
What happened at the Circle Tower?
Few who survived the Blight have fond memories of that time. I would prefer not to speak of it.
What was Kirkwall like?
While I was there, Canary occupied and then attacked the city. The Viscount's murder caused political unrest. Relations between mages and Templars fell apart, an apostate blew up the Chantry, and the Knight Commander went mad. Other than that, it was fine.
What happened between Kirkwall's mages and Templars?
You were at the Conclave. You must have heard people speak of it.
Yes, but you were there.
There was tension between mages and Templars long before I arrived. Eventually, it reached a breaking point. There was fighting in the streets. Abominations began killing both sides. It was a nightmare.
What happened then?
The Templars should have restored order, but Red Lyrium had driven Knight Commander Meredith mad. She threatened to kill Kirkwall's champion, turned on her own men. I'm not sure how far she would have gone. Too far.
So you opposed her?
I stood with the champion against her, in the end. But I should have seen through Meredith sooner.
Varric's from Kirkwall. Did you two know each other?
I knew he was friends with the champion of Kirkwall, but little else. We've spoken more since I joined the Inquisition, largely at Varric's insistence. Apparently, I spend too much time with a serious expression on my face, and it's bad for my health.
I'll let you return to your work.
Another time, then. Inquisitor?
Is there anything I should know?
I'm glad to have the charges on our side. Bull's men are professionals, despite evidence to the contrary.
What do you think of the people you work with?
Who do you mean?
What do you think of our ambassador?
We have little in common. How she delights in meeting with nobles all day is beyond me. But I enjoy working with her.
How do you like working with Liliana?
The Inquisition would not exist without her. I may not always agree with her methods, but she's more passionate about our cause than anyone. Cassandra may have declared the Inquisition publicly, but Liliana is just as responsible for its formation.
Are you satisfied with the Inquisition's forces?
Our soldiers handled themselves well during the siege on Adamant. They reacted quickly to changes on the battlefield. More importantly, they relied on each other. Trust in your fellow soldiers is not something that can be trained.
I should let you get back to work.
What a fascinating life you lead, my dear. First you fall out of the Fade, then you're attacked by an archdemon. If you wanted more public attention, you could have just held a ball.
I'll talk to Josephine. Maybe we can get matching gowns before the next attack.
I've got a tailor in Valroyur who can work miracles, my dear. But not those sort of miracles. You left yourself vulnerable to attack. It was a miscalculation, one that I'm sure you won't repeat. But the enemy struck a serious blow against you and the Inquisition. We must recognize that. You must.
You're wrong. We now have a better location and far more people at our disposal. This couldn't have worked out better if I'd planned it.
Yet we can hardly rely upon the whims of Providence to give us all our victories. This defeat may have turned to our advantage, but it will not last long. Our enemy advances, Inquisitor. We must not sit idly by. Act first and teach them to fear us. You can become the leader the faithful require, but you must do it soon.
Someone I knew once described Adamant to me. Adamant is, and always will be, the Order, he said. A guardian on the edge of the abyss. The lone soul that stares into oblivion and doesn't waver. That's what Warden Commander Clarel tried to be. Well, they all tried to be. I'm told her wardens never wavered. They went to their deaths willingly. They died for us. And Corypheus twisted their sacrifice to make it his own.
We stopped him. We saved most of the Wardens.
But not all of them. And they died thinking they were doing something good. There's no one to blame but Corypheus. Even Clorel's intentions were righteous. Her desire to protect was so great it led her astray. It's not right. To want to do good, to be good, and have that turned against you.
Don't think of what went wrong. Think of their intentions, their sacrifice. Honor their selflessness.
Clorel made mistakes, but she was a great woman. And she died a great woman. It's not the armor or the trappings of the Order. It's not the joining. At the heart of it, all a Warden is a promise. To protect others, even at the cost of your own life. This is just... it's something to keep their hands busy. You were quite the outlaw, I hear. The Carter. You must have some past.
Who told you that?
No one had to tell me. It's amazing the things you learn waiting for someone to crack a keg. Or while sparring, or just walking past the barracks. The men do enjoy their idle talk.
It was the only way to survive for someone like me.
I'm not judging. I know what it's like to be so desperate. I don't care who you were. I know who you are now. And that's the person I signed on for. You are who you choose to follow. Someone told me that once. Took me years to understand what he meant.
There's wisdom in that.
It was a chevalier who said those words to me. A powerful man, but never without honor. A true knight. We met as competitors in the Grand Tourney. He left me with that advice before we parted. Put aside his own ambitions to help me win the melee. I don't think I even thanked him.
What is this Grand Tourney?
You've never heard of it? The Grand Tourney of the Free Marches. It's a spectacle. Song, dance, wine, every amusement you can imagine. But the greatest part is the contest of arms. Prove yourself in the Grand Tourney, and you can make your fortune.
How did he help you?
There were 100 men on the field, each one fighting for himself. The knight and I had forged an alliance. It was just the two of us, and we took all comers. The goal, down as many opponents as possible. He always let me deliver the final blow.
It was generous of him.
He said I stood to gain everything, while he'd lose nothing. When it was over, he offered to mentor me, to teach me to become a chevalier like him. And I, young and stupid, turned him down flat. I just won the melee at the Grand Tourney. I didn't need him. I should have gone with him. Perhaps things could have been different.
You're here now. A Grey Warden. It worked out.
I suppose it did, didn't it? But I'm older. Hopefully wiser. And I think I've chosen the right person to walk with. Want a drink? I've a hankering for company. When I was a boy, there were these urchins who roamed the streets near my father's house. One day, they found a dog. A wretched little thing. It came to them for food. I caught it, tied a rope around its neck, and strung it up. Do you know what I did?
You stopped them? Cut the dog down?
I did nothing. Not a damn thing. It was crying. I saw the kicking legs, the neck straining and twisting, and I turned around. went inside, and closed the door. I could have told my father, or alerted someone. I didn't. I just pretended it wasn't happening.
You said you were just a boy.
I was old enough to know the dog was suffering and that it was wrong. I may as well have tied the noose myself. We could make the world better. It's just easier to shut our eyes.
When we first met, you were saving peasants from demons and outlaws. You're not a man who shuts his eyes. A little insane, maybe.
Of course you'd make light of it. You make saving the world look easy. The rest of us can only dream of matching what you've done. Don't you see? It's not just about what happened back then. There's always some dog out there. Some fucking mongrel that doesn't know how to stay away.
Secret lives in their world, raised as they cry.
The Spy Master has confirmed it. Blackwall is gone.
He would not have left unless he had a good reason.
It is not for me to speculate on Blackwall's motivations. Sister Leliana had us search the Warden's quarters. Not much to find, except this. It was missing from last week's reports. I don't know what Blackwall's interest in this particular matter is, but it could be a good place to start.
Leave me be, sister. I didn't want you to leave.
I appreciate the warning, but you shouldn't have come yourself. What if the guild found out, or what's his name?
Are you worrying for me or for yourself?
A little of column A, a little of column B. I am the expendable one, after all.
Oh, don't worry, I'll protect you. We'll just have to... Well, this is a surprise. You're the Inquisitor, right? Bianca Davry, at your service.
Your name is Bianca?
It's a common name. Half the girls in the Merchants Guild are named Bianca. The other half are named Helga. I lucked out.
I take it you're a friend of Varric's.
Who isn't a friend of Varric's? You have met him before, right?
Any friend of Varric's is welcome here.
Be careful saying things like that. Some of his friends you don't want to meet. But not much scares off the Carta, does it? You probably don't bat an eye.
Bianca's got a lead on where Corypheus got his red lyrium.
The site of Bartran's Folly, the tag Varric found, has been leaked. There's a deep roads entrance crawling with strange humans carting out red lyrium by the handful.
How do we know they're not using multiple entrances to get to the tag?
Navigating the deep roads isn't like the surface. There's no accurate maps of the whole system, and there are cave-ins, darkspawn, lava floods. If you find a route that gets where you're going, you don't deviate. Trying to find another way could be deadly.
Who could have given away the tag's location?
There were a few people who knew. Hirelings from the expedition, a couple of close friends.
How they found out isn't important. What matters is we know where they are now.
If it's such a secret, how do you know about it, Bianca?
I told her. Right after the expedition, I wrote and told Bianca what we found. I had artifacts that needed buyers, and she had more contacts that would pay for them. Plus, I owed her.
You can get there from Orlais? It's a long way to the free marches.
The deep roads are all connected. Or they used to be. Collapses and such, some of them on purpose.
They really are roads. They spanned the Dwarven Empire, went to every corner of the continent, maybe further. In theory, you can get to any tag using the deep roads, but in practice, there's a reason nobody uses them anymore.
We need to deal with this. As long as he has this source, Corypheus is that much more powerful.
I couldn't agree more.
I'll keep an eye on their operation. If you're interested in shutting it down, you've got my help. Try not to leave me waiting too long, Varric. I've got my own work to do, you know.
Right. That's not going to be trouble at all. Let me know when you want to head to the entrance. Need something?
About that lead of yours, Varric.
Sure. The sooner we take care of it, the better.
Do you think this lead of hers is real?
Bianca's too much of a researcher to pass me information without verifying it first. But if you're asking whether she'd lie to us, maybe set us up, it's possible. Not likely, though. She risked the wrath of the guild coming in person. A message would have sufficed. Whatever she found in that entrance shook her up. That worries me.
I've read your tale of the champion, and I have a few questions.
That's a pretty common reaction. Go ahead.
There is no way Hawk really could have killed the Arishok. It would have started a war with the Qunari.
I was told later that the Qunari disavowed his actions. Apparently, the Arishok didn't get permission before he attacked Kirkwall, and the Qun didn't want another exalted march. When they finally sent a ship to haul the wrecked dreadnought away, they just said, "We will never speak of this again." As far as I can tell, that's the Qun's version of an apology.
Carry on.
Need something?
Can I ask you something, Varric?
You want to talk about me? I'm flattered. Also inclined toward extravagant lies.
You from Ferelden? Orlais?
Free marches. Born and raised in Kirkwall. And despite whatever you've heard, no. Kirkwall's not that bad.
I'm not clear on your line of work. You're a merchant?
I'm a businessman. My family has a seat in the Dwarven Merchants Guild. Merchants buy and sell goods. Businessmen buy and sell stores. In my spare time, I manage a spy network, and occasionally, I write books.
If you've run a spy network, why is Liliana our spy master?
To be honest with you, she's just a better spy master. The truly great ones can keep their distance. They don't get attached to their people. Me, I always wind up babysitting my informants and worrying about their families. We're in better hands with her.
You're an author? What kind of books have you written?
I've tried my hands at a few genres. My crime serials are my most popular. Hard in Hightown, guards breaking the rules to get things done. The Tale of the Champion is the most famous thing I've written, or infamous, maybe. I started a romance serial once, Swords and Shields, but to be honest, I don't have a knack for romances. Most of my stories end in tragedy. Probably that says something unfortunate about me personally.
What sort of shops do you own?
Actually, we don't own shops. That was just an example. Mostly we invest in moneylenders. Auction houses, a few mercenary companies, a couple of smithies. I think we own half a beet plantation in Ravane somewhere. Most of that's my brother's doing. Bartrand had business sense. Not much tact, but loads of business sense.
How do you and Cassandra know each other?
You heard about the Kirkwall Chantry being destroyed? The guy responsible used to be a friend of mine. The Seeker had questions about that, and I had answers.
Where did you get that crossbow? I've never seen one like it.
Bianca? She's one of a kind. Funny story. I bought a salvaged ship and found her locked in a dragonbone reinforced chest in the hold. I broke 3 dozen lockpicks and blunted 9 saws opening that trunk, but it was worth it.
Who is she named for?
I can't tell you.
And the reason for that is?
Complicated. It's the one story I'll never tell. We just have to leave it at that.
Thanks, Varric.
No problem.
I told them the offer was the best.
Find the strange.
And of course they said no. Choke us? They think we're too remote to do anything about it.
Shame they're wrong.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Inquisitor, I wonder if you might help me with a delicate situation. There is an alchemical formula that I must complete, but I have been unable to obtain a critical ingredient. The heart of a snowy wyvern. I had arranged to obtain one, but the chevaliers working with me were killed in the Civil War.
If I'm going to hunt down a snowy wyvern, I need you to tell me everything you know about it.
They're quite rare and exceedingly dangerous. Their venom is the most potent of any wyvern. Ordinary hunters would not make the attempt. The risk is too great. You, my dear, would certainly be an equal to this monster.
I didn't know you were an alchemist, Vivienne. What exactly is this project you're working on?
It is a special request from a member of the Council of Heralds. I am still the Imperial Court Enchanter, after all. The matter is private. That is all there is to say.
You want me to risk my life to get this thing for you, but won't tell me what it's for.
My dear, it is hardly proper for me to blab the secrets of those who put trust in my discretion. I would not have attained my position at court if I didn't know when to be silent.
I'm not a hunter. Why do you think I can help?
This beast is not hunted for sport, as other wyverns sometimes are. It is far more deadly. In the past, chevaliers have been dispatched to either kill the creatures or drive them away from villages. Since my chevaliers have fallen to political conflict, I find myself in need of someone with a martial aptitude.
I'll do what I can.
Thank you, my dear. I would be most grateful. I shall give the location of its lair to Cullen. Remember, my dear, I must have its heart or the potion will not work. I eagerly await your success. You walked physically through the Fade. Please tell me what you remember.
I was physically in the Fade at the Temple of Sacred Ashes, too. You didn't ask about that.
Darling, you didn't remember anything. Questioning you would have hardly been productive. No one else has physically entered the Fade since the Magisters assaulted the Golden City. Oh, I'm positively envious right now.
I wanted to ask you about the Circle of Magi.
Of course. What do you wish to know?
If the Circle disbanded, how can you still belong to it?
The Circle is an idea, my dear. And an idea cannot be dissolved. Many of the first enchanters voted for rebellion, caring little that anything short of a unanimous decision would pit mage against mage. Rather than dissolving it, Grand Enchanter Fiona's vote split the Circle in two. The rebels follow her, the loyalists follow me.
If you lead all the Loyalists, why are you only First Enchanter and not Grand Enchanter?
Grand Enchanters are elected, and since there are no First Enchanters besides myself, no vote can be held. I could name myself Grand Enchanter, but the title holds no meaning now. When the circles are restored, that will change.
What was it like to live in a circle?
My dear, your question is the root of all problems with mages. I cannot tell you. Every circle was different. Their Templars were different, their politics unique. And every person within each tower had an experience of circle life unique to themselves. Some people suffered and some were content. Some were cruel, some compassionate, and some indifferent. The same is true of people everywhere, in all circumstances, whether they are mages or not.
So, tell me about your personal experience with the Circle.
I enjoyed life in the Montsimard Circle, my dear. It was an edifice devoted to knowledge and refinement. And mages need the company of other mages. No one else can truly understand the challenges we face, nor see the world as we do.
You must have been under constant supervision being forced by Templars to live in the tower. Was that hard to endure?
My dear, I have a suite in the palace and a wing at my dear Duke Bastien's estate. I've never been forced to live anywhere. Most circles allowed mages to live away from the tower, either on their own or in service to the nobility. All that was required was permission from the first enchanter. Some circles were harsher in their restrictions. Kirkwall was the worst, but it was the exception. Most were quite permissive, perhaps too permissive in retrospect.
How did we come to this state where the Circle's in revolt?
A failure of perspective that infected Circle leadership. Mages lived solely in a world of Templars and mages. They could not even imagine what was beyond the tower walls. Kirkwall gave the world a reason to remember its fear of magic. A mage killed hundreds with a snap of their fingers. Across Thedas, a new tangible fear of magic grew. Commoners and nobles alike called out to the Chantry for protection. But the malcontents in the towers thought nothing of this. They cared only for themselves and for their anger at the new Templar restrictions. When a mage attempted to assassinate Divine Justinia, again, the mages protested the investigation. The leadership chose to vote on independence based on the intolerable conditions imposed by the Templars, sparing no thought to the fact that magic was more feared in the aftermath of these attacks than it had been since Tevinter's day. So long as they had their freedom, they could care little for riots, angry mobs, or about pitting mages against each other.
Are you familiar with Grand Enchanter Fiona?
We've met. Before her horrendously ill-timed and selfish vote for independence, I thought her adequate at her job. In her dotage, she could not handle looking after the well-being of so many people. We would have done better to replace her years ago, to let her spend time gardening.
Did they have cause to rebel?
In the aftermath of their terrorist attacks? Was that really the most opportune time to break away? By all means, protest abuses by the Templars. Just don't do it in a way that says mages support wholesale murder. By voting when they did, my colleagues all but declared war upon the ordinary people of Thedas. A war in which we are outnumbered 100 to 1.
I thought the fighting was only between mages and Templars. Why are mages fighting mages?
The vote for independence was carried by only a small margin, but Fiona chose to let the motion stand. Those who opposed a rash declaration of war against the entire free world had little choice. By breaking from the Chantry when they did, the rebels declared themselves in support of mass murder. Anyone who did not wish to support terrorism and the slaughter of innocents was forced to take arms against the rebels. Yes?
I wanted to ask you about the Circle of Magi.
Of course. What do you wish to know?
You must have an opinion of the Templars after living so long in the Circle.
Having opinions about Templars, my dear, is exactly like having opinions about mages or Navarrans or men. I have known some who are impossible to endure and some who are utterly charming. I have suffered insults at the hands of those in the armor, but no more than I endured from nobles or tradesmen in Val Royal. Personally, I have found the Templars a useful tool, skilled at keeping more unpleasant elements at bay. Yes?
I'd like to know more about you, Madame Vivienne.
Whatever would you like to know?
Your accent's not Orlesian. Where exactly are you from?
I am from the Circle, my dear. One's country of origin rarely matters there. But if you must know, I was born in Wycombe in the Free Marches. I was sent to the Ostwick Circle, but I transferred to Monsignat while still an apprentice.
I'm curious how a Circle mage winds up at court here.
Nobody winds up at court, my dear. It takes a great deal of effort to arrive there. I caught the eye of Duke Bastien de Ghislaine, an advantageous connection that opened many doors. When the position of Enchanter to the Imperial Court became vacant, I was able to secure it.
You're married to the Duke de Ghislaine?
Of course not, my dear. Don't be ridiculous. Marriage is the business of alliance and inheritance. I'm Bastien's mistress.
What duties does a court enchanter have?
I am tasked with providing assistance to the Empress on arcane matters. Most of my predecessors restricted this to lighting lamps and doing parlor tricks. In such troubled times as these, however, I provide political advice to Her Majesty on the subject of the Mage Rebellion.
Do you think that you and I might someday...
I don't see how that benefits me in the slightest, my dear. Yes?
Is there anything I can do to help your efforts at restoring the Circle?
After the Circles fell, their libraries were plundered by scavengers. 1,000 years of recorded knowledge in the hands of bandits. It makes me sick to think of it. I've received news that some tomes have been located, if you are interested in righting this wrong.
I'll look into it for you.
If you can take care of this matter, the Circle would be in your debt. Yes?
I'd like to know more about you, Madame Vivienne.
Whatever would you like to know?
I'm curious how a Circle mage winds up at court here.
Nobody winds up at court, my dear. It takes a great deal of effort to arrive there. I caught the eye of Duke Bastien de Ghislaine, an advantage. When the position of Enchanter to the Imperial Court became vacant, I was...
You've gathered quite the collection. Wonder how many are in this set.
A nice, simple blade. Can't go wrong.
I'll be back later.
I'll be here.
How bracing to be in the thick of the game again. The last time I was at Alam Shiral was Countess Letienne's wedding. There were a dozen affairs, 5 secret alliances, and a duel between 2 chevaliers over the vintage of an Antivan port. But until the Duchess was en masse, I've never seen the Winter Palace in shock.
You don't see the Empress of Orlais almost killed in cold blood every day.
Not so brazenly, no. The game's become increasingly insular in the past few years. Corypheus skillfully took advantage. It's disturbing so few people in the Orlesian court were aware of the Duchess's machinations.
The Empress realized she was in danger.
She's always in danger. Those loyal to her should have practiced more vigilance. But let's not lose sight of victory. Your actions at the ball have secured us allies and favors alike.
My favorite moment of the evening is still our waltz in the garden.
I could have danced with you for hours. We must do it again sometime. Inquisitor, is it true? Is the mark on your hand magic cast by Corypheus?
Corypheus claimed it's a spell gone wrong.
I wanted to think it was a blessing. A sign the Maker was returning to his creation. How credulous of me.
Perhaps the Maker set these events in motion so long ago, we can no longer see his hand in them.
It would be fitting if that were true. Does it hurt? The anchor, that is.
Only when I laugh.
Very good, Inquisitor.